what's going on, guys? My name's Dynasty. What I got for y'all today again is another Injustice 2 video. As a matter of fact, today is all focused on the Injustice 2 campaign. You're probably saying, Dynasty campaign? What about the Injustice 2 campaign? Exactly, we got like no news whatsoever about the Injustice 2 story mode apart from that small synopsis that NetherRealm Studios released, of course, with the debut trailer for the actual game. So other than knowing that the events of Injustice 2 take place after the events of Injustice 1, that's pretty much all we have to work with. And of course, you throw in the fact that in 3 months, we've seen little to no news whatsoever about Injustice 2, and it's been scarce lately, guys. And I don't mean the flannel, I mean literally, there's been like no news in general for Injustice 2. However, back in October, this company called Game Reactor actually had the opportunity to interview this man called Brian Goodman, who now works in NetherRealm Studios, and while they were interviewing him, he gave a ton of brand new information about the story mode as well as other modes inside of Injustice 2, a pretty good glimpse of what's to come. So guys, that's the plan for this video. Here is everything we know so far from this interview, and if you already heard about this somehow, because like I mentioned, I did not even know about this, not too many people actually talked about this, so it slipped through the cracks for me, it probably slipped through the cracks for a bunch of other people. That was a horrible analogy. That sounds gross, but anyways guys, with that said, let's get into it. So first things first, it appears that there may be 2 different ways you can play the Injustice 2 campaign. Possibly one way being as the insurgency players, or the other way being obviously the regime, the good guys, the bad guys, the heroes, the villains. And I'm saying this because when asked about the campaign, he actually had this to say, Brian Goodman. He said, we're definitely going to leave them wanting to go through it perhaps a second time. Now here's the actual piece of audio right here from the interview.
Similar to what we've done in games past, you know, it's sort of a linear story. We are doing some new things with it this time around, which we are excited to talk about. Unfortunately, we are not at the point where we could be talking about that yet, but structure-wise, it's going to be a little bit different. There's going to be definitely an opportunity for players to go through the story mode, and we're definitely going to leave them wanting to go through it perhaps a second time.
You can just tell, guys, after listening to this small piece of audio from this Brian Goodman interview, they have some very big things planned for the Injustice 2 campaign. He mentions everything that he needs to mention for, like, the evidence just to, like, make sense. It's all right there in front of our face, guys. He says that they're doing some new things this time around, that he says the structure-wise is going to be a bit different for this as well, but he just can't talk about it yet. But he opens up by saying, similar to what we've done in games past. So if it's similar to what they did in the past, but different for a game like Injustice 2, then you throw in the fact that he's saying that it's going to leave us wanting to go through it and play it perhaps a second time. All signs are pointing to them replicating what they did back in MK vs. DC, where in that game you had 2 separate campaigns where you could either play as the MK characters or, of course, the DC characters. So this stuff is pretty cool because, I mean, hey, everything he said in that small snippet of audio suggests this is going to be the case. You can either play as the Insurgency or, of course, play as the regime inside of Injustice 2. And, of course, that would give you a reason to perhaps play a second time through the campaign. So seeing this got me pretty stoked because usually when you beat the campaign for a game like Mortal Kombat X or MK9 or even the very first Injustice, you beat the campaign once and you've done it all. Like, there's no reason to go back and play it again. There's no replay value whatsoever. So it's kind of just like that one-time experience. But with this, you get that second chance, so you can actually see what's going on both sides of the battlefield, and it gives you more bang for your buck, more of a reason to actually go back and, like he said, play it perhaps a second time. So I'm excited for this. I'm all for it. If this isn't the case, I'm going to be pretty bummed out. So I'm going to say, guys, that is what he's trying to say, but not really saying because he can't say much at this moment. Moving on, though, he does talk about some other modes that will be inside of Injustice 2. Listen to this clip right here.
Well, yeah, there's story mode, and then we're going to have a number of single-player modes, really trying to round out our offerings for people who enjoy our games as single players, which we'll be giving more information on down the line. And then, of course, a whole suite of online modes as well, both competitive and potentially some cooperative modes as well online.
So it seems like NetherRealm Studios really wants to up the ante for single-player content inside this game, and I don't really blame them because back inside of Injustice 1, if you weren't really playing online multiplayer, there wasn't much else to do because all you had after you beat the game were obviously the Star Labs missions and, of course, the battle mode. And though there was a ton of variations for battle mode, like heroes only, villains only, poison, survivor, like look at this list, there's so many. At the end of the day, though, still, that really wasn't much content back inside of Injustice 1, so it's cool to see NetherRealm Studios acknowledging that and saying, hey, this time around for Injustice 2. Even if you don't play online, we got a ton of stuff for you guys to look forward to, so that's awesome. Moving on, though, he did mention that there's going to be a suite of online modes as well, including even potentially some cooperative modes, and that is insane because I'm trying to think. They already said there's not going to be any tag team mode for Injustice 2. So what would be the co-op mode for Injustice 2 and playing online with others? I'm trying to think. I honestly have no clue. So what would you guys think? Like, what is a potential cooperative mode inside of this game that I can't think of anything, guys, really? Maybe just like a team-based 5-on-5, similar to what we've seen in the past, where you get like 5 people on the red team versus 5 people on the blue team. Each player challenges another challenger from the other team, and of course, if you win, you get a point. Whoever has the most points at the end of all the matches is the winner. So I'm guessing kind of like that, like we've seen before. But other than that, I have no clue what this online co-op mode could be. Maybe like the campaign online co-op where you guys take turns fighting somebody. I honestly, guys, have no clue. Anyways, that is just a bunch of news, though, coming from, of course, this interview right here from Game Reactor. Of course, this is from Brian Goodman. He is, I think, the social marketing director of NetherRealm Studios. So that's pretty much it, guys. That is everything from this interview for the most part. If you want to read the whole thing, of course, a link provided below. But I just thought it was so interesting how we might have some online co-op mode, as well as even seeing how we're going to have like 2 versions of the story mode where you can actually probably play as like the Insurgency and the Regime. That'd be so sick. Anyways, guys, that is all I got for y'all today. A bunch of big news for Injustice 2 that I'm just now seeing. And if I'm just barely seeing this morning, I know a lot of you guys probably missed this as well. Like I mentioned, not too many people actually noticed this and talked about it. And it's just crazy because, you know, most of us universally hated MK versus DC. Like, it was not the highlight of Mortal Kombat's past, and it's just funny because everybody hates that game. However, I will say this: the idea of having 2 different campaigns in one story mode, like 2 different sides, is just so sick. And if they do that inside of Injustice 2 and it actually works, that'll probably always be like the one redeeming quality for MK vs. DC that'll be like going down in history. Like, yeah, that game sucked, but it gave Injustice 2 that double-sided story mode idea, and I'm cool with that, guys. But anyways, that is all I got for y'all today. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, please drop a like on it. Of course, subscribe for some more Injustice 2 and MKX content. Till next time, I've been your host, I've been Dynasty, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.